Alright, what's going on guys? It's Jake from Code for Fun. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make a door that will only open if you know a specific code. A couple of the things that you're going to be learning in today's video is a really cool coding feature called concatenation. Basically, what that feature will do, it will allow us to add new text into our string. So when you type in the numbers for the code, it will add an addition to each value. The first thing we have to do is create a system to make the UI appear when we step on a certain block. To do that, we're going to create a new script inside of the UI activate button, and from there, we're going to begin the code. Just so you guys know, if you want to follow this tutorial exactly, the UI and this part setup are in the description for a download, so you can follow exactly, have all the names, and be able to code this much easier. Once we're inside of here, a couple things we have to remember is that we have to make sure this activates on a touched function. A touched function basically means that when the object is touched by anything surrounding it and any contact is made, this event will fire. So the first thing we want to check for is script.parent.touched. From here, we're going to start a new function by typing connect and then creating our function. Now, the touched function has one parameter, which is basically the object that hits it. You can give this any name. For easiness, I'm going to call it hit. So now we're going to create an if statement because we want to know if it's a player that touched it. If we didn't, we'd get many errors because this would fire every time a random part touches it. In order to do this, we have to create an if statement that says if hit.parent, so if the part that touches it is a humanoid, using find_first_child humanoid to prevent any erroring, then we want to fire a new event. So what we have to do before we can write our next line of code is create a remote event. I already did it. All you have to do is click this plus and type in remote event, and from there you can create your event and name it. If you don't know, a remote event basically allows you to convert all of your code from the server to the client and vice versa. So when something happens on the server, I can make it do something for only one person in the game. That's why it's so useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire a new event and make something happen on the client. To do that, simply type in game.replicatedStorage.enabled event, so just find the event in storage, and fire the client. In order to be able to find the client though and know who we're firing it on, we have to reference hit. So to do that, what we have to do is go to game.players to locate the player, not the character, and then get the player from the character. And the character we're going to get it from is hit.parent. We already know hit.parent is the character since we found it using humanoid. Now that we've this code created, we need to make something happen on the client's end. We're going to make a new code inside of the UI. To do so, click the code UI and then create a new local script. This will make sure it only happens on the client. From there, we have to link to the event that was just fired through the server. To do that, we're going to reference the event one more time using game.replicatedStorage.enabled event, and then find it on the client event and connect. So here we're going to create a new function, and in here we're finally going to bring in the UI. The next thing we're going to write is we're going to say game.players.localplayer.playerGUI.code UI. So now we're in the players UI, not the starter GUI, and we've referenced the code UI. From here, we can enable it. So we can say .enabled equals true. So now what should happen is when we spawn in, we can step on this block to bring in our code UI. That's good, but now we have to code the actual UI. First thing we want to do is make sure there's a system for when you press every single button. So to do that, I'm going to create a local script inside any of the buttons that is not clear or enter, and in here, I'm going to write out some new code. Now that we've created our new script, we have to assign one variable. This variable will be the result variable. To do this, I'm going to say local result equals script.parent.parent.parent find first child, result. So this is going to use the script.parent method to find the result. The result is the text label, and it's everything we type in. We're going to use this to match whatever we see. From here, we're going to use the mouse button one click event, which is a new event you guys are learning. That basically means when the user clicks on a button inside of the UI, it's going to fire. So I'm going to write script.parent.mouse button one click connect function. We need no parameters for this, but now we have to check to see if we should add a string to it or if this should be the first string. So what I'm going to say, since result is blank right now, we want to double check if result is blank. We're going to say if result.text is equal to a single space, so just a blank line, then result.text is equal to script.parent.text. The reason we're doing this is because if there's a blank space before your code, then that can make it look weird. So the first time we actually put in a number, it's going to remove that space. We're now going to put in an else statement to assign what happens if there is no space and if there's actually a number. Here's where concatenation comes in place. I'm going to say result.text will equal its current text, but use two dots. These two dots are going to tell the computer that it will add new numbers to the string. So from here, I'm going to use script.parent.text. So now it's going to add another number to the current number. So now that we have this done, we can actually replicate it and put it in every single button. So once I have it copied, I'm going to go into each of the 3 rows here, and I'm just going to choose all of my buttons. From here, using Control-Shift-V, I have it replicated in everything. Let's see what we have now. As you can see, whenever I press a button, there are new numbers added, so now we can actually create an enter system and finally create the code. In order to do this, we have to create a new number value called code. This code can be whatever you want. As long as it's numbers, you can make it as long as you want and as short as you want. For easiness, I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, but just feel free to set it to whatever you want. Make sure it's inside of code UI. Now we're going to create 2 variables. We're going to actually use the same result variable. So script.parent.parent.parent find first child result. Then the second variable we're going to use is code. So that's going to be the code number we just created. We're going to write local code equals script.parent.parent.parent.parent find first child code. Here we're going to use the same mouse button one click event, and now we're going to create our biggest function yet. This function will check whether or not the code is equal to what your code was assigned. So here we're going to create 2 new variables, one being the text and one being the code that we just assigned. The reason we're doing this is because a value is different from text, so in order to compare them and have them be seen as the same thing, we have to use the toString function. This will allow us to make sure each one is a string and compare them equally. So what I'm going to write is local text equals toString result.text. So now the text and result, the code that you inputted, is going to become a string. Now if we take local code value, which equals toString code.value, we've now made both values a string. Now we can equally compare them and figure out whether or not your code is correct. So I'm going to write if text is equal to code value, then print correct, and we'll have result.text equal access granted. You have a lot more freedom here because you now are controlling what's going to happen. You can add any of the fun stuff you want. Then we're going to wait 3 seconds and we're going to reset the code. And we're actually going to disable the code UI. And then we're going to make the door transparent finally. So we're going to write game.workspace.keycardsetup.door.transparency equals 1 and game.workspace.keycardsetup.door.canCollide equals false. So now the part will be invisible and you will be able to walk through it, but you'll be the only one who can. Since this is all done locally, it will only be done on the client, so any other users will have to enter the code themselves. Now we want to make the incorrect feature. So what we're going to do is we're going to write else print incorrect and then set result.text to access denied. Then we're going to wait 3 seconds and just reset the text to give them another try. Now we have one more thing to do. All we have to do is create a clear system so the user can restart. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new script inside of our clear part, and we're going to make it a local script again and assign our result variable. Script.parent.parent.parent find first child result. Now we just have about 3 more lines of code to do. When this part is clicked using mouse button 1 click, we're going to create a new function, and we're simply going to restart the text. So we're going to have another space added so that can be detected. So I realized that I made a mistake. We actually have to assign a new value, and we have to call it enabled. So let's create a Boolean value. I'm actually going to call it granted because in my reference code, that's what I have it set to when I code this at the start. So the reason we have to do this is because once it's enabled once, we want to make sure that once the users entered the right code, it can't be enabled again. So all we have to do is go back into our local script that controls it and check for a variable. Now we're going to say if script.parent.granted equals true or false, then, and script.parent.granted will now equal true. You have to make sure that you add dot value to each part, or else it will result in nothing. We also have to go into our enter code and rewrite this. So if we do script.parent.parent, we have to do it twice more, so .parent.parent. Now everything will work fine. So if you click play and we walk over to our door, let's see what happens. If you enter the right code, just wait 3 seconds, and from there, everything works and you can't reopen the UI, and now you'll notice you have an open door. That's all for today's video, guys. This was my first video on this channel, so I'd really appreciate any criticism you guys have. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. Leave your comments for any new tutorials you want. I'm always happy to help. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.